The sun burned red above the alien city, its light falling on rows of cages, chains, and dust. Voices filled the air, loud and greedy. Buyers shouted numbers. Sellers dragged weak creatures forward. The smell of metal and sweat spread across the ground. This was the alien slave market, a place where hope died every day. Among the many slaves stood one girl, small and thin, her skin pale with strange glowing lines running down her arms. Her eyes were wide, but not with anger, only with silence. She was different from the others, not strong, not skilled, not beautiful by alien standards. That is why no one wanted her. Traders shouted, "Look at this one, useless, too weak, not even worth 1 coin." Others laughed. "Throw her away. She will not last the night." The girl lowered her head. She did not cry. She had no more tears left. Her wrists were bruised from chains. Her legs trembled. Still she stood. For hours, many buyers came. They chose the strong males, the skilled fighters, the alien women with beauty or talent. But when their eyes fell on her, they turned away. No one lifted a hand. No one made a bid. It was as if she was invisible. The noise of the market grew louder, but around her, silence grew heavier, she thought. Maybe they are right. Maybe I am worthless. Her heart felt like a stone sinking deeper inside her chest. Suddenly, a tall shadow moved near her cage. It was not another alien, not one of the scaled merchants or the greedy-eyed buyers. It was something strange, something rare. A human. He walked slowly through the market. People stared, some whispered, "Why is a human here? They do not buy slaves, they are fools." The man ignored them. His boots touched the dust, his eyes scanned the rows of cages. He was not rich, his clothes were simple, worn by travel, but his face was calm, and his eyes sharp when he stopped before her cage. The alien girl lifted her head, confused. No one had looked at her like that before. Not as trash, not as dirt, but as if she was a person. The trader laughed nervously. "Human, this one? She is nothing, skin and bones, she cannot work. She cannot fight even for free, she is a waste." The crowd laughed too, mocking both the girl and the human. But the man did not laugh, he did not turn away. He stepped closer and spoke in a clear voice. "I'll claim her." The entire market froze. Silence hit like a stone in water. Every eye turned to the human. Every mouth opened in shock. The trader blinked. Not sure he heard right. "What? You want her? This worthless thing?" "Yes," the man said, his voice firm. "She is mine now." The girl's breath caught in her throat. Her heart pounded. No one had ever said those words for her before. Not with choice, not with meaning. She did not know whether to fear him or to thank him. Was this another cage or the first step to freedom? The traders whispered to each other. "Humans are strange. Why waste money on nothing?" Some sneered. "He will regret it. She will bring him only trouble." But the human ignored them all. He paid the price, a price so low the traders laughed again. Then he took the key, unlocked the cage, and the chains fell from her wrists. The girl staggered forward, too weak to stand tall. But the human held her steady. For a moment she looked into his face. There was no greed, no cruelty, only a quiet strength. But she still did not understand. Why would anyone claim her? The market noise returned, louder than before. But inside the girl's heart a new silence grew. Not of despair, but of a question she could not yet answer. And somewhere deep within her a tiny spark lit. The spark of hope. She did not know if it would survive. She did not know if the human was her savior or her next master. But as he led her away from the cages, away from the chains, one thing was clear. Her life had just changed forever. The crowd still buzzed in shock, their whispers and laughter chasing the human as he led the girl out of the market. No one could understand why he had chosen her, no one wanted her, and yet he said, "I'll claim her." To many it sounded like madness. The alien girl walked unsteadily beside him, her feet sore from days in the cage, her wrists still burning from the weight of chains. She dared not speak. Fear twisted inside her chest. This human was not cruel, not yet. But what if his kindness was only a mask? Around them, the market continued. Buyers shouted, sellers screamed, coins clinked in greedy hands. But for her, everything blurred. Only the man's steady footsteps echoed in her ears. She kept her head low, afraid to look at him, afraid to ask why finally. Outside the gates of the market, the noise faded, replaced by the sound of wind brushing over the desert stones. The human stopped, turned, and looked at her. "You are free from them now," he said. His voice calm but firm. The girl blinked. Her lips parted. "Free?" She whispered as if the word itself was forbidden. "Yes," he answered. They cannot touch you anymore." Her knees trembled. She almost fell, but she forced herself to stay standing. How could she believe him? Every hand in her life had only pushed her down. Every voice had only called her worthless. Why would this stranger, this human, be different? "Why, me?" she asked softly, her voice like dry leaves in the wind. The man's eyes narrowed slightly, not with anger, but with thought. "Because they saw nothing," he said. "But I saw someone still standing, even when all hope was gone." The words cut deep, stirring something she had long buried. But fear still fought inside her. What if you are lying? What if you are just like them? The human's lips curved, not into a smile of cruelty, but into something steady. "Then walk away," he said, stepping back. "You can leave right now. No chains, no price. The choice is yours." Her heart raced. She stared at him, stunned. Leave? She had never been given the chance to choose, never in her life. Yet here he was, handing her freedom with open hands. But freedom was heavy, heavier than chains. If she walked away, where would she go? She had no food, no shelter, no name anyone cared to call. Her chest tightened, her voice cracked. I cannot." The human nodded once. Not disappointed, not angry, only understanding. "Then come with me," he said, not as a slave, but as someone who deserves to live. They began walking again, leaving the dust of the market behind. The city stretched before them, tall alien towers of stone and glass, filled with bright lights and strange voices. The girl kept close to him, afraid to be swallowed by the crowd. People stared at them as they passed. A human leading a weak alien girl. Some sneered, some whispered cruel jokes, but the man walked on, unshaken. At a quiet corner of the city, he stopped near a fountain, the water clear and cool. He handed her a flask. "Drink." Her hands shook as she lifted it. The taste of clean water hitting her tongue. It felt like life itself. Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them away quickly, afraid to appear weak. The man noticed but said nothing. Instead, he broke a piece of bread from his pack and held it out. She hesitated, then took it, eating slowly, each bite reminding her how long she had starved. For the first time in years, her stomach began to ease. Silence stretched between them. Heavy but not cruel. Finally, she asked, "What do you want from me?" The man looked at her, his gaze steady. "Nothing," he said, "except that you keep living." Her chest ached, her heart could not understand such simple words. Nothing. Everyone had always wanted something. Work, beauty, strength, obedience, but this human wanted nothing. Still, doubt gnawed at her mind. Maybe he was tricking her. Maybe this kindness would turn into chains tomorrow. But a small part of her whispered, "What if it is real? What if he truly means it?" The sun sank lower, painting the city with orange light. The man stood and said, "We should move before night falls. The streets are not safe." She followed quietly, her steps still weak, but inside a strange warmth spread. Not trust. Not yet, but the beginning of it. Behind them, far in the shadows of the market, eyes watched, traders who had lost their sale, men who did not forget what they considered theft. Whispers carried on the wind. The human took her, but she was ours. "We will get her back." The girl did not hear those voices. But the danger had already begun. She only knew one thing. Her life no longer belonged to the market. It now walked in the hands of a human who had claimed her. Not with chains, but with choice. The city grew smaller behind them, its towers fading into the distance. The human walked with steady steps while the alien girl followed, her thin legs shaking with every mile. Dust rose around their boots. The desert stretched far and endless. Above them, the sky burned orange as the sun began to sink. The girl said nothing, her throat dry, her mind louder than her voice. She kept asking herself, why is he doing this? Why me? What does he truly want? Her hands still felt the ghost of the chains. Even though they were gone, every time she glanced at him, she searched for cruelty in his eyes. But all she saw was calm silence. The path was long, lined with jagged rocks and broken ground. The human carried a pack. His shoulders heavy but his pace strong. She had nothing. No bag, no shoes, no past she wanted to claim, only fear and questions. At one point she stumbled, falling to her knees. Her breath came in sharp gasps, her legs too weak to rise. For a moment, shame burned inside her. Would he leave her here? Would he call her useless like the traders did? But the man knelt beside her, not with anger, not with disgust. He offered his hand. Get up, you can keep going. His voice was not soft, but steady, like a wall that would not fall. She looked at his hand, hesitant. Her heart screamed, "Don't trust, don't believe." But her body needed the strength, and so she placed her trembling hand in his. He pulled her up with ease, not mocking her weakness, only guiding her forward as they walked again. The silence between them grew heavy. The girl finally whispered, "Where are we going?" The human glanced at her, then back at the horizon. "Somewhere safe," he said. "Far from the market, far from those who would chain you again." Her chest tightened at his words. Somewhere safe. She could not even imagine what that meant. To her, safety was a dream too fragile to hold. They walked until the sun kissed the horizon. Shadows stretched long across the sand. The air turned cold. The human stopped near a ridge where rocks shielded them from the wind. He dropped his pack, set a small fire, and the flames crackled in the growing night. The girl sat across from him, her eyes fixed on the fire. Its warmth touched her face, and for the first time in years, she felt something like comfort. But doubt still whispered inside her mind. Why had he chosen her? Why waste his time, his coin, on someone broken? Finally, she asked the question that burned deepest. "Are you my master now?" Her voice shook, the firelight making her eyes glisten. The human lifted his gaze, surprised, then shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "I am not your master. I do not own you." "No one does." The words struck her harder than chains ever had. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. How could he say that? How could anyone believe it? For her whole life she had only been owned, nothing else. She lowered her eyes, whispering, then, "Why claim me?" The human stared at the fire, his voice calm but heavy. "Because no one else would. Because leaving you there would mean letting them win." He looked at her, his eyes firm. "And I don't let slavers win." A chill ran down her spine. Not of fear, but of realization. This man was not like the others. He carried something different inside him. Not greed, not hunger, but a fire of his own. The girl hugged her knees, her mind spinning. She wanted to believe him, yet her scars told her not to. Trust was a wound that never healed, but hope was rising. Piece by piece, against her will, the night deepened. Stars filled the sky like silent watchers. The girl lay on the ground near the fire, her body aching with exhaustion. Her eyes closed slowly, but her thoughts stayed awake. She thought of the market, the laughter, the chains, and then of the human's voice saying, "You are free." For the first time, she wondered if life could be something else, but even as sleep pulled her under. Shadows moved beyond the ridge, figures in the dark, eyes glowing faintly, watching the fire. The traders had not forgotten. They had followed. The long walk had only begun, and danger was already near. The fire crackled softly under the night sky. Cold winds brushed across the desert ridge, carrying with them the whispers of unseen watchers, but the girl did not know this. Her body was too tired, her mind too heavy. She lay curled near the flames, eyes half closed, waiting for the familiar sound of harsh commands or cruel words. None came. Instead, the human sat across from her, silent, his gaze fixed on the fire as if guarding it, or guarding her. His presence was steady, not heavy, not cruel, just steady. For someone who had lived all her life in cages, that was stranger than kindness itself. When the flames dimmed, he reached into his pack and pulled out a small metal pot. He placed it over the fire, poured water from his flask, and dropped in dried herbs and a strip of meat. The smell drifted through the night, warm, savory, alive. The girl's stomach clenched with hunger, but she did not dare speak. The human glanced at her, then at the pot. "Hungry?" he asked, his voice calm. She hesitated, unsure if it was a trick, if answering would earn her punishment. Slowly, she nodded, her eyes lowered. Minutes later, he poured the hot broth into a small cup and slid it toward her. "Drink," he said simply. Her hands trembled as she took it, the heat almost burning her palms. She sniffed the steam, then sipped. Warmth spread through her chest, chasing away the cold that had lived inside her bones for years. Tears stung her eyes, and she quickly turned her face away so he would not see. But he did not laugh, did not mock her. Instead, he added more herbs to the pot, letting the scent grow stronger. When she finished, he handed her a piece of flat bread. She tore it slowly, chewing as if afraid it would vanish. Every bite felt unreal, like a dream she did not deserve. Finally, she whispered, her voice weak, "Why do you give this to me?" The human's eyes softened, though his face stayed serious. "Because you need it," he said, "and because you are not an object. You are someone." The words struck harder than the food. She stared at him wide-eyed, her chest tightening. Someone? She repeated as if the word was foreign. He nodded, yes. Someone who has suffered enough. Someone who deserves more than chains. For a long moment she could not breathe. Her mind fought the idea. Her scars screamed it was a lie, but her heart wanted to believe it. The silence between them was broken by the crack of a stone shifting on the ridge above. The human's eyes flicked to the shadows. Sharp and alert, he stood quickly, hand moving to the weapon at his side. A simple but strong blade. The girl froze, fear rushing back. Had the slavers followed them? The human scanned the darkness, but the shadows slipped away, leaving only silence. He stayed standing for a while, guarding, until finally he sat back down. His voice was low but firm. You should sleep. I will keep watch. The girl shook her head, whispering, if they come, they will take me back. Her voice cracked with terror. The human leaned forward, his eyes steady. They will not take you, not while I am here. Something in his tone was unshakable, not a boast, not empty words, but a promise made of stone. Her heart ached as she looked at him. Why? Why did this stranger care? The flames burned low, and slowly her body gave in to exhaustion. Her eyes closed, though fear still lingered. Before sleep took her fully, she felt something. A blanket, rough but warm, laid gently over her shoulders. Her chest tightened, not from fear this time, but from something far more dangerous. Hope. When dawn came, the desert was painted gold. Birds circled overhead, and the fire had died into ashes. The girl stirred, blinking in the morning light. The human was already awake, packing his things. His blade still at his side, he glanced at her. Eat before we move, he said, handing her dried fruit and water. She ate quietly, her mind still circling one truth. This was the first kindness she had known, and it terrified her more than cruelty ever had. Because cruelty was familiar, but kindness could break her heart if it vanished. As they walked on, the ridge behind them shifted again. Dark figures crouched low, watching, whispering. The human thinks he saved her, one hissed, but she is ours, and we will take her back. The long walk was not just a journey now, it was the beginning of a hunt, and soon, both the human and the alien girl would learn that freedom always had a price. The desert stretched on, endless waves of sand and stone under the burning sun. The human walked ahead with steady steps. His pack heavy on his shoulders, the alien girl followed close. Her legs weak, but her spirit slowly waking from the long sleep of despair. Still her mind wrestled with questions sharp as thorns. Who was this man? Why had he saved her? What did he see in her that others did not? At midday they stopped beneath a cluster of jagged rocks where a patch of shade waited. The human set down his pack, pulled out water, and handed it to her. She drank in silence, but her eyes kept studying him, searching for answers he would not give. Finally, her voice broke the air, soft and uncertain. You could have chosen anyone. A strong fighter, a skilled worker, a beautiful one, but you chose me. Why? The human's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but as if weighing what to reveal. For a long moment he said nothing. Only the desert wind spoke. Then he leaned back against the rock, his voice low but firm. Because I know what it means to be owned. The girl froze. Her cup halfway to her lips, her eyes wide. You? Owned? She whispered, almost unbelieving. Yes, he said. Not by chains of iron, but by chains of war, chains of orders, chains that break your soul if you let them. The fire in his tone was quiet but real. She could see it. This man had carried scars of his own. Scars hidden behind his calm face. He looked at her directly. I will not stand by and watch others suffer those chains. Not while I can still fight. The words struck her like thunder. Her breath shook, her chest heavy with something she could not name. This was not pity, not weakness. This was conviction. Slowly, she lowered her gaze, fingers twisting together. Her own secrets pressed against her lips, heavy and sharp, but for the first time, she wanted to speak them. I was not always in the cages, she whispered, her voice trembling. The human stayed silent, listening, his eyes never leaving hers. Her throat tightened, but she forced the words out. My people. They wanted perfection, strength, beauty, skill. Anyone who was weak or different was cast away. She looked down at her arms, at the faint glowing lines on her skin. They said I was broken, not worthy to belong, not even worthy to live. Her voice cracked. Tears burned in her eyes. They sold me, threw me into the market like trash, and every buyer turned away. Even slavers laughed, said I was worthless. She lifted her face, a bitter smile breaking across her lips. Do you know what it means when even slavers do not want you? The human's jaw tightened, but his voice was steady. It means nothing about you, only about them. Their blindness does not define your worth. The words cut into her heart, breaking something inside her, something rotten and old. For years she had carried those voices, the ones that called her nothing, and now, this stranger's voice rose against them. For a moment she believed him. Silence fell again, heavy but warm this time. The girl wiped her tears quickly, afraid to show weakness, but the human simply stood, offering his hand to pull her to her feet. Come, he said. We must keep moving before night falls. They walked again, step after step across the desert, but now, the silence between them was different. No longer filled with suspicion, but with fragile trust as the sun sank low. Shadows stretched across the sand. The human paused suddenly, his eyes scanning the horizon. The girl followed his gaze, heart racing. Figures moved in the distance, dark shapes creeping closer. They followed us, the human said under his breath, his hand tightening on the hilt of his blade. The girl's blood ran cold. The traitors? He nodded. They will not give up what they believe is theirs. Her chest tightened, fear clawing at her ribs. I told you, she whispered. They will take me back. But the human's voice cut sharp through her fear. No, they will not. The conviction in his tone shook her. He looked at her, his eyes hard as stone. I did not claim you to lose you. If they want you, they will have to fight me. The girl's breath caught. For the first time, someone had stood between her and the world, not to chain her, but to shield her. Her fear did not vanish. But alongside it, something new grew. A strange, dangerous faith. The truth had been revealed. Her past of rejection, his past of unseen chains. Two broken lives now bound together by choice. But beyond the dunes, the hunters closed in, and the desert night would soon become a battlefield. The desert night was silent, too silent. The human's eyes stayed sharp. Scanning the dunes, he had seen the shadows moving, creeping closer, patient like wolves. The girl walked behind him. Her step small, her heart beating fast. She felt the weight of eyes on her back, though she dared not look. Finally, the silence broke. A whistle cut through the air. From the ridge above, 3 figures appeared, their weapons glinting under the moonlight. Behind them, more shadows rose from the sand, their movements fast and hungry. The slavers had come. The girl froze in terror, her body stiff as stone. They found us, she whispered, her voice trembling. The human pulled her behind him, blade in his hand. Run when I tell you, he said, his voice low, steady like steel. The slavers laughed as they closed in. You thought you could steal from us, human? One of them hissed, his teeth sharp. She belongs to the market, not to you, another growled. The human's grip tightened on his blade. She belongs to no one, he said firmly, before another word could be spoken. The first slaver leapt forward. The human met him halfway, steel clashing with alien metal. The sound rang across the desert, sparks flying under the moon. The girl stumbled back, fear flooding her veins. She wanted to scream, to run, but her legs would not move. More slavers surged forward, their footsteps pounding against the sand. The human swung his blade, each strike precise, each block firm, but there were too many, their numbers spilling out like dark water. Go! He shouted at the girl, his voice sharp. Her body finally obeyed. She turned and ran, the desert stretching endlessly before her. Behind her, the sounds of battle filled the night. Clashing blades, grunts of effort, the hiss of alien tongues. Her heart ached with every step, torn between fleeing and turning back. But her fear pushed her forward. If they caught her, the chains would return, and she could not survive that again. Suddenly, a slaver broke off from the fight and chased her. His long strides cut the distance quickly, his shadow falling over her. The girl stumbled, her foot catching in the sand. She fell hard, her breath leaving her chest. The slaver reached out, snarling, "Back to the cages with you." But before his hands could close around her, the human struck from the side. His blade cut across the slaver's weapon, sending it crashing to the ground. The man stood between her and the hunter, his chest rising with sharp breaths. "I told you," he growled. "She is not yours?" The slaver hissed and retreated into the shadows. But more came, their numbers endless, circling. Waiting for a weak moment, the human grabbed the girl's hand, pulling her to her feet. "Run, and do not stop," he ordered. They fled together, their footsteps pounding across the sand. Behind them, the hunters gave chase, their voices echoing like demons. The desert became a maze of shadows and moonlight. Every dune another trap, every ridge another danger. The girl's lungs burned. Her legs screamed in pain, but she held tight to the human's hand. He did not let go, guiding her through the darkness. His steps always strong, always sure. Arrows hissed through the air, striking the sand near their feet. One grazed her shoulder, making her cry out in pain. The human glanced back, rage flashing in his eyes, but he kept pulling her forward. "Stay with me!" he shouted. Finally, they reached a canyon, narrow walls rising high on both sides. The human shoved her into the passage. "To keep going. Don't look back." She stumbled through, her breath ragged behind her. The human turned to face the slavers again, holding the canyon entrance like a gatekeeper. The hunters rushed him, their blades flashing. The sound of battle echoed through the narrow walls. The girl stopped, tears streaming down her face. She could not leave him. Not now, not after everything. With shaking hands, she picked up a sharp stone from the ground, her body weak but her spirit burning. For the first time, she stepped toward the danger. Not away from it, her voice rose, breaking through the chaos. "Leave him. Leave us." The slavers sneered, amused by her defiance. But her cry gave the human strength. His blade moved faster, sharper, cutting down another attacker. The hunters began to falter, their confidence shaken. At last, the leader hissed, "Enough, not tonight." With a whistle, he pulled his men back, melting into the shadows. The desert grew silent once more, the echoes fading into the night. The human lowered his blade, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his brow. He turned to the girl, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, though her shoulder burned, her eyes filled with tears. "Why? Why do you fight so hard for me?" He sheathed his blade, his answer simple. "Because you deserve more than chains." The girl's heart trembled. Not with fear this time, but with something far stronger. For the first time in her life, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was worth saving. But the chase was not over. The slavers had retreated, not vanished, and the desert still held many dangers. The night was far from safe, and their journey was far from done. The desert was silent again, but not peaceful. The human and the girl stood together at the canyon's edge, the smell of dust and blood still heavy in the air. The slavers had retreated, but their threat lingered like a shadow across the sand. The girl clutched her shoulder where the arrow had grazed her, her breath uneven. The human stood tall beside her, his blade still wet with the fight. His eyes fixed on the darkness for a long moment, neither spoke. The stars above glittered cold and endless, as if the whole galaxy watched in silence. At last the girl whispered, "They will come back, won't they?" The man nodded slowly. "Yes, slavers do not give up easily." Her heart sank, fear tightening her chest. "Then I will never be free." But his gaze turned toward her, firm, unshaken. "You are already free," he said. "The chains they try to put on you now are only fear. Break that and they have nothing." The words settled deep into her, heavier than any chain, but brighter too. Could she really break the chains inside her? She had lived her whole life believing she was worthless, believing freedom was not for her. But this man, he fought as if her life was worth more than his own. As dawn crept over the desert, painting the sand with gold, the human finally spoke. "We cannot keep running, not forever. We must find a place where they cannot reach you." "Where?" she asked softly, her voice filled with doubt. He glanced at the horizon where distant mountains rose like stone giants. "There," he said, "beyond those ridges, there are settlements where slavers hold no power, a place where you can choose who you want to be." Her lips trembled, the word choose echoing in her mind. It was something she had never been given. Not in the cages, not in her people's judgment. Not even in her dreams, the idea felt unreal. But it was the first time she wanted to believe it. The journey to the mountains was long, but different now. The girl no longer walked as a prisoner dragged forward. She walked with her own steps, still weak, still trembling, but her own, the human, stayed close, steady as ever, not leading her as a master, but walking beside her at night. When the fire burned low, she found herself speaking more. She told him small things, memories of when she was young, when she first realized her glowing marks made her different. The pain of being called broken, the silence of being unwanted, each word was heavy. But each word she let out made her lighter. The human listened quietly, never interrupting, never dismissing her pain. When she finished, he only said, "They were blind." Difference is not weakness. It is strength they did not understand. She stared at him, her chest aching. No one had ever said those words to her. It was as if he was rewriting her story right in front of her. One night, as the mountains drew closer, the girl sat by the fire and finally asked, "Why me? Why risk everything for someone like me?" The human poked the flames with a stick, then looked at her. "Because I saw a girl standing when she should have fallen. Because even when the world told you that you were nothing, you still endured." He paused, his voice heavy but certain. "And because no one else would. Sometimes one person has to stand where no one else will." Her eyes burned with tears, her heart breaking and healing all at once. She wanted to thank him, but no words could hold the weight of what she felt. Instead, she whispered, "You didn't buy me. You freed me." The human's lips curved, not into a smile of triumph, but into something softer. "Then live free," he said. "That will be the only thanks I need." The next morning, the mountains rose tall before them, their peaks sharp against the sky at the base. Lights shimmered, a settlement alive with movement, voices and freedom. The girl froze, her body shaking, fear and hope crashing together. "What if they don't want me either?" she whispered. The human placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and warm. "Then we will find another place and another, until we find one that does. You are not alone anymore." Her throat tightened, her eyes filled with tears she could no longer hold back. For the first time, she believed him. For the first time, she stepped forward not as property, not as trash, but as someone walking toward a life of her own. The slavers might return, the galaxy might still judge her. But she had taken her first step into freedom. And beside her walked the human who had given her that chance. Together they entered the light of a new beginning,